The recent really shocking rise in anti-Asian hate, it isn't some new thing. It's actually a dark pattern that's been woven right into American history, a cycle that just keeps repeating: fear, blame, and exclusion. So today, we're going to unpack that cycle, from how it was literally written into law all the way to the threat it poses in our new age of AI. So let's just start with a number that's, well, it's hard to even wrap your head around. In 2020, as the pandemic was taking hold, New York City saw a 1,900% increase in reported anti-Asian hate crimes. I mean, think about that. That isn't just a statistic, right? That represents thousands of real people whose lives were turned upside down by fear and violence, all because a global health crisis was racialized. So that begs the question, why? Why does this keep happening over and over again? Well, the answer isn't in today's headlines. To really get it, you have to go back. You have to look at the historical architecture of scapegoating that was built, piece by piece, more than 150 years ago. And let's be clear, this wasn't some kind of accident. It wasn't just random prejudice bubbling up. The whole architecture of exclusion was designed. It was written right into American law, creating a system that could be turned on like a switch during any time of national crisis. At the very heart of this is a concept called racial capitalism. Here's how it worked. After the Civil War, America desperately needed cheap labor to build the West. So Chinese workers were recruited to build the railroads, to work in the mines. They were absolutely essential for that economic expansion. But, and this is the crucial part, the second the economy started to struggle, that very same group became the #1 target for everyone's anxiety and blame. This timeline really shows you how deliberately this legal wall was built. It started in 1875 with the Page Act, which used nasty stereotypes to keep Chinese women out, basically making it impossible for families to form. Then it got worse. The 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act was the first law in American history to ban an entire ethnic group. And it all led up to the 1924 Immigration Act, which just slammed the door shut on pretty much all Asian migration for decades. So this legal structure, it didn't just keep people out. It basically poisoned the soil. It allowed these two really powerful and totally contradictory myths to grow, myths that would be used to justify both conditional acceptance and sometimes horrific violence. And this just brilliantly lays out the dangerous tightrope Asian Americans have had to walk. On one side, you've got the model minority, this myth that was basically created during the civil rights era to argue that systemic racism doesn't exist. See? They made it. But on the other side, you have the perpetual foreigner, the idea that no matter how many generations your family has been in America, you're always seen as an outsider, as disloyal. And this wasn't just an idea. This was the trope used to justify locking up 120,000 Japanese Americans, 2/3 of whom were American citizens during World War II. Okay, now let's fast forward to 1982, Detroit. The American auto industry is getting crushed by Japanese competitors. The air is just thick with economic fear. And that fear was about to find a human target in a case that would spark a national movement. Two white auto workers who blamed Japan for losing their jobs beat a 27-year-old Chinese American named Vincent Chin to death with a baseball bat. And the judge? He gave them just 3 years of probation and a $3,000 fine. His reason is right here in this quote. It sent this absolutely chilling message that an Asian American life was worth less. And it was the moment that galvanized the first ever Pan-Asian American civil rights movement. But here's the thing. This history of scapegoating and violence has always been met with incredible resilience. Just like the tragedy of Vincent Chin sparked a movement, a group of Vietnamese refugees down in Texas fought their own incredible battle against organized hate, and they won. This slide just lays out their amazing story. So you have Vietnamese refugees who survived the war, rebuilt their lives, and became really successful in the Texas shrimping business. But their success was met with a full-blown terror campaign by the Ku Klux Klan. But you know what? They didn't back down. They got organized, they sued, and they won a groundbreaking federal court victory that protected their right to work without being terrorized. And that brings us right back to today. The exact same dynamics, economic fear, feeling displaced, they're all brewing again. Only this time, the trigger isn't a foreign auto industry. It isn't a global pandemic. It's artificial intelligence. I mean, history gives us such a chillingly clear blueprint. Just look at this ad from the 1880s. It wasn't just selling a washing machine. It was selling the idea that new technology could be a weapon for racial exclusion. The message was literally, buy our machine so you can get rid of the Chinese laundry workers. It's right there in black and white. So here's the question for our time. For really the first time, this massive tech disruption is hitting knowledge workers, not just manual laborers. As AI starts to make entire professions feel obsolete, history warns us, people are going to look for a human scapegoat. So who is going to be framed as the new foreign threat? Okay, so how do we break this awful cycle? We can't stop technology from advancing, but we can change the story we tell about it. And the source materials for this actually give us a really clear roadmap for how to build a more resilient future. The absolute key is to be proactive. You have to shift the conversation before a crisis gets going. That means talking about the real reasons for economic change, like corporate incentives, instead of letting it get twisted into a racial issue. It means building coalitions with different communities and using cold, hard data to prove the economic value that diverse businesses bring. These alliances, they act like a critical buffer when social tensions start to rise. So, in the end, if this long, painful history shows us the blueprint for how hate gets built, maybe it also gives us the tools to take it apart. By understanding this pattern, economic anxiety twisting into racial scapegoating, we're all better equipped to see it coming, to reject the false stories, and to build a future where we actually solve our problems together instead of turning on each other.